Good evening and welcome to the debut episode of Just Winning. I'm your host, Jon Whitley. I'm joined today by the Hitting the Field Network's host of Almost Game Day, Sean Green. Sean Green, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I was on yesterday, so I'm a little tired, but I'm excited to be on the debut episode of your show. I'm really excited.
Awesome. And what can people expect from your show, Almost Game Day?
Everything. I'm the only one talking for most of the part, so I don't know how exciting that will be, but we've got some big-time interviews. Charles Davis interview dropping on Friday, so make sure you tune in for that.
Awesome. I cannot recommend that interview enough. And I'm also joined by one of Hitting the Field Network's most talented production people, one of the most talented production people I've ever had the privilege to work with, Connor Dart. Connor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you? I'm excited to be here. Debut episode of Just Winning with Jon Whitley. Super excited, and I'm ready to jump into some sports.
Awesome. Let's get right into it. All right, so last night we saw the Heat beat the Bucks 115-104. Jimmy Butler put up 40 points. We also saw the Thunder force a Game 7 against the Rockets, winning 104-100 with Chris Paul's 28. What did you guys take away from last night?
Go ahead.
I'll start with Connor.
The Heat are a force to be reckoned with, but at the same time, I don't think the Bucks are where they should be. I think the Bucks came into the bubble thinking that they were going to dominate. Giannis was an MVP candidate at the beginning of this season, of this strange season so far, and he just hasn't shown that potential, that MVP level of play thus far. I mean, the Magic, they lost game 1 of that series, and even all the other games were kind of close, and the Bucks just haven't been that dominant. And I'd say the Heat, they're a young team. Jimmy Butler is leading them. Dragic had 27 points last night as well. I mean, they're just a young team. They're playing good basketball, getting open shots. And, yeah, that's my takeaway from that Bucks game.
I like that because it's like, on one hand, the Heat look really good, and on one hand, you want to give Giannis a pass because it's weird circumstances with the bubble, but you look at his career, he hasn't really showed up in the postseason yet, and at some point, it's like, you got to put up or shut up.
Yeah, he's got to put up here. Hopefully they can bounce back in game 2. But who knows what will happen. I think the Heat are a great team, and they're off to a great start, 5-0 in the playoffs so far.
Nice. Sean, what did you take away from last night?
Well, we talked about it yesterday on Hitting the Field, and I think it's exactly what Connor said. It's the Bucks just don't look ready to play in the bubble. I said it was pretty much like Giannis hasn't taken over a game. If the Magic were at full strength and full health, they'd win 2 or 3 games with the way the Bucks played in that first series. So they got punched in the mouth last night, and I think we said it best yesterday. It's going to be really how Milwaukee handles that punch in the mouth, because Miami looked ready to play. They looked sharp. They didn't look scared at all by the Bucks. And when their leading scorer is Chris Middleton with 28, and Giannis only puts up, I think, 16 or 18 and 10 rebounds, he looked like an average player. He didn't look like a MVP-type player. I think Brook Lopez had like 24 points.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So I think Milwaukee really needs to kind of soul search and find themselves again, because I think with everything going on in Milwaukee and then them in the regular season being such a powerhouse and then coming into the bubble kind of lax, they just looked really slow and small last night.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people, like I touched on before, want to give Giannis the pass because of the bubble, but I think he shrinks when in the highest stages. I remember in the All-Star game when he's on the floor with a bunch of dogs in the last minute, he didn't want the ball. He was just hiding in the corner on offense. And through his career, we haven't seen him show up in the postseason yet.
He's very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Miami Heat took exactly what the Magic did by covering that box in the middle, and if he drives, you just double right there. If Giannis can get the 3-point shot going this series, make at least 2-3 a game, they've got a great shot to win. But the problem right now is all he can do is drive the ball, and if that's not going for him, the Heat or the Bucks are really one-dimensional.
Connor, what do you think? Is it the bubble, or you think it's Giannis under pressure in the postseason?
I would say it's Giannis under pressure in the postseason. The Bucks just haven't performed well as a team either. They gave up 42 points in the paint last night as well, and that's just not like their team at all. They play good paint defense, I think averaging 30 points. The Heat were able to penetrate, get a lot of points in the paint, and that's just, I don't know, maybe they're just a little step off. Maybe it's because of the bubble. Maybe it's because of Giannis. Their main guy isn't putting up numbers like he should be.
No, he's not. On the other game, Thunder forcing a Game 7 against the Rockets. The Rockets had Westbrook back for his second game. They had all hands on deck, and they still are now forced to play a single elimination game against the Thunder in the first round of the playoffs. What do you make of that, Sean?
It's honestly sad for the Rockets. I think about a week ago, everybody was talking about how the Rockets look like the best team in the bubble. They're putting up crazy numbers. And I think they took their foot off the pedal a little bit. Chris Paul looks like a man on a mission. He really wants to win. I think watching that interview after the game yesterday, he looked hungry to win. And I don't think the Rockets are as hungry as Chris Paul right now. The Thunder are an underdog team. It's kind of like the same situation with the Jazz, but the Thunder are very young. I think their most veteran players are Danilo Gallinari and Chris Paul, but then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a star in the making. They've got a bunch of young, good core players. So if the Rockets lose in round one, that management and that whole organization needs to take a look at themselves in the mirror because they have too much talent on the roster to lose to the Thunder in the first round.
Definitely. What did you take away from last night?
Yeah, it's been ridiculous the past couple of years. The Rockets have gotten unlucky. I mean, they lost to Golden State a couple times in the playoffs. The Western Conference has been the better conference as of recently. But, I mean, when you're shooting the same percentage, basically, as the Thunder in this game, they're shooting the three ball, I think they hit 13 to 15, both teams did. You're just not going to win that game. If Harden can't get going on the floor and from the three, and if Russell Westbrook can't put up numbers like he should be, they're not going to win the series. They're going to go home early, and their coach might be gone. It's just they haven't produced a championship with the level of talent they've had the past 5 years. It's mind-blowing. I really don't know what's going on.
Definitely. And I mean, James Harden's not getting any younger. You definitely don't want to waste these prime years of a generational talent like James Harden. But on the other side for the Thunder, Chris Paul is playing like a prime Chris Paul. You know, I think a lot of people kind of wrote Chris Paul off because he's battled so many injuries and hasn't been there for his teams when they needed him in the postseason. But now that we're seeing Chris Paul at his best, I think the Thunder are a legitimate threat.
No, they definitely are. I think Chris Paul is taking that leadership, mentorship role. On the Rockets, it was more of like a let's have fun, which it really wasn't fun since James Harden kind of ruined that for him. But he's come to the Thunder, and I remember when that trade happened, people were like, oh, you're paying Chris Paul $40 million. Like, that's absurd. Blah, 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 blah. We got rid of Russell Westbrook for him. But now looking at it, it looks like a really good deal because he's mentoring those guys that are going to take over your team in 2 to 3 years. So the Rockets really need to match that competitive nature that the Thunder are bringing. And if they don't, they will lose tomorrow night.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm glad you touched on Chris Paul's leadership because I'll say right now, I think Chris Paul is the best leader in the NBA. Connor, what do you think the Thunder have to do to force the upset in Game 7?
I think they just have to keep doing what they're doing. I mean, they have to hit shots. They have to play gritty basketball. They got to get rebounds. They out-rebounded the Rockets, I think, 51-41. So they were in the paint. They were getting boards in the post. And it's just Chris Paul being a leader, being that guy who I think everyone wrote off when he went to the Thunder. I think, oh, this is probably the last team he's going to play for.
Cash grab.
Yeah, exactly. But here he is. Steven Adams is putting up numbers in the paint, too. I mean, if they just keep playing how they are, gritty basketball, they're the underdog, like Sean said, I think they can pull out an upset here.
All right. So before we flip to football, I want to know who you guys have in Game 7. Sean, who do you have?
I'm going to go with the Thunder. James Harden can come out and show out, so I don't discount the Rockets. But I like the gritty team right now, so I'm going with the Thunder.
Nice. Connor, you laid the blueprint. The blueprint. Do you think it's going to happen?
I think the Thunder are going to take this game. I just think they're hungry. They want it more. They want to keep playing. It doesn't look like the Houston Rockets want to be there at all. So I'm going to take the Thunder.
Yeah, good. So now let's flip the script to the football world. Yesterday, we saw last year's 7th leading rusher. That's more yards than Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, and Joe Mixon. Leonard Fournette for the Jacksonville Jaguars cut yesterday. Shocked a lot of the football world. Connor, you're a Jacksonville native. What did you make of the move?
As a Jags fan, it's just heartbreaking to see. I mean, I don't think Fournette put up numbers last season. He didn't, and that's fine. But, I mean, where we were at in 2017, AFC Championship game, probably should have beat the Patriots. Didn't go that way. Probably should have beat them. But, I mean,
24-20.
When you look at the team, it's completely different. It seems like we're just getting rid of talent at the drop of a hat. And I don't know what leadership is doing. They're trying to rebuild, but, I mean, for the whole time, like, I've been a fan of the team, we've been rebuilding. So it seems like this process just keeps going on and on. Maybe they'll come back. I don't think they're too Armstead and the other running back are going to do too much, but we'll see what happens. We got Jay Gruden, offensive coordinator, but it's tough to see Fournette go.
That is tough as a Jags fan because it's like, you know, you get to the AFC Championship. It looked like the Jags had finally finished their rebuild, finally arrived, and they just start shipping players out of town one by one, starting with their quarterback.
Yep.
What did you make of the move, Sean?
I think it all went downhill once Blake Bortles they cut Blake Bortles. That's what I think. I think once Blake Bortles got cut, everything went to crap in Jacksonville. No, I think, listen, Leonard Fournette is a really solid running back. But I say it yesterday, and I'm going to say it every time when players get cut or get traded and they're a really good player. Consistency is key. Leonard Fournette is just not a consistent football player in the NFL. He can have 1 week where he rushes for 150 yards, 2 TDs, and the next week he rushes for 20 yards and on 5 touches. So I think the Jags want somebody more consistent, but also let's be real. The Jags are tanking, right? They're not playing for this year. Their quarterback's Gardner Minshew. No disrespect to Gardner Minshew. He's not a franchise starting quarterback. He's a good average quarterback. They're going for Trevor Lawrence. I think everybody knows that. It's not like they're not telling people they're tanking, obviously. But when you trade Jalen Ramsey, Yannick Ngakoue, Leonard Fournette, all of your best players that got you to the promised land, you're tanking for Trevor. That's clearly what it is.
They're clearly tanking, but it's like I like that you touched on that he wasn't consistent, because I did point out he was the 7th leading rusher. That's a top 10 rush from last year, but a lot of that was because of those outlier games, those 200-yard rushing games.
And the fact that he's just a workhorse. He'd get like maybe not 4 yards per carry, but they were just giving him the ball as much as they could.
We're talking about 30 carry games.
Yeah, and they didn't want Gardner throwing the ball, especially if he was having an off game or two, so they would just keep handing the ball off, and that just piles up to small yardage here and there, and that's probably why he got so high.
I think there's a lot of teams that are looking for that guy that they can give 30-plus carries to.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say. But so what do you guys think that team is? Where do you think he lands? I'll start with you, Sean.
I don't want to say it, but I feel like Tampa Bay is in the New England mode where they go get those players because it's like, oh, let's go get Gronk, let's go get LaShawn McCoy, it makes me sick to my stomach. But, yeah, I think either Tampa or, I hate to say it, but New England. Those are the 2 teams right now that I look at and I say they can go make a run. New England's got a ton of cap space with all the players that opted out, and we're not paying Cam Newton anything, so we have a lot of cap space. So New England can go get him, especially with Sony Michel injured right now. The Patriots need another back, so that can help. But, Tampa just wants the rich of riches, right? You got Gronk, LaShawn McCoy. They need to make that running back room really good. And I think Ronald Jones Jr. is not the starting back that they think he is. So I think they might take a waiver on him, pay him $5 million for 1 year, see what happens. So I think those are the 2 teams that catch my eye.
All right. Connor, where do you see him going?
Yeah, Tampa would be a great landing option. LaShawn McCoy and him would be a great dual system. LaShawn a little bit better out of the backfield, and I think Fournette could just be that ground and pound type running back. And you said New England. I was thinking that as well. I mean, they seem like the team that just go get Fournette and turn him into a superstar right away, especially with the offensive line. I mean, either one would be great for him. I think he'd really be beneficial for any team.
Yeah, I like that. I think the 2 teams that stand out to me would be the Washington football team. Obviously, just losing guys, they have a big need at running back, especially a guy like him where you can just force feed him the ball. The other team, and this is my favorite landing spot for him, would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they could use a good running back, and I think that's the best fit for him because I think they would use him in a way that best utilizes his skill set. They've got good enough weapons around him that they're not totally dependent on him in the same way that maybe Jacksonville was.
See, the thing with Pittsburgh is that is a good thought process because James Conner has his injury problems, but Pittsburgh has no cap space. I think they wanted Jadeveon Clowney, but they don't have money for him. And I think Leonard Fournette's going to at least get at least $5 million a year. So Washington could be a landing spot if he clears the waivers. And then Washington's going to have to throw a bunch of money at Leonard Fournette because I don't think Leonard Fournette wants to go play for Washington.
No.
Yeah, on a small dime either way. He's got to get paid.
I think that's why it's good you guys point out the Patriots because that's one place people go where they're willing to take those pay cuts. And, it's yet to be confirmed, but Tampa Bay might be that new place as well.
Yeah.
As well. And you know what, guys? Leonard Fournette, not the only notable free agent still out there as we're only 2 weeks away from the season. Earl Thomas, recently cut by the Baltimore Ravens. Do you guys see anybody picking him up, or does he remain a free agent? Connor, what do you think?
Someone's going to pick him up. I mean, a scrap in practice is a reason to not be in the NFL anymore, especially with a talent like his. I could see him going to the Chargers, maybe the 49ers. I know the Chargers have shown a lot of interest this past week. He's a great talent. It sucks that the Ravens cut him, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do. If you're not going to put up with any of that locker room stuff or any of on-field problems, then you got to move on and keep going.
Definitely. Sean, what do you think? Earl Thomas, landing spot.
I was actually shocked that the Ravens released him. The Ravens have been notorious for that hard-nosed, workhorse type team. So I guess there must have been many other issues for them to cut Earl Thomas, which in many people's opinions is a top 5 free safety. So, yeah, I kind of agree with Connor. I think the Chargers could be a potential landing spot. A dark horse team that I think could potentially make a run for him is the Green Bay Packers to increase that defensive need. The safeties are good and the corners are really good, but right now the Green Bay Packers are trying to get to that Super Bowl, and I think Earl Thomas could be that extra piece for that depth spot to make a run for that extra Super Bowl, not just make it to the NFC Championship. But that's a dark horse team. I do think the Chargers will ultimately sign him. They have the cap space. They have the need, especially with Derwin James now out. But I would say if they don't sign him, Green Bay is a potential landing spot.
Definitely. For me, I think my lock for him to go is the Chargers, as you guys touched on. I think with the Derwin James injury yesterday, which frankly makes me sick. This kid, when he's on the field, he's a top 5 defensive player in the league. I don't think that's a stretch to say that.
No.
So to see him go down absolutely makes me sick. But, I think you can fill a lot of that void by signing Earl Thomas to a franchise-friendly deal for 1 season as sort of a prove-it deal.
Yeah, 100%.
I like that.
Last notable free agent we'll get into, Jadeveon Clowney. Very talented player, but he wants a lot of money, maybe a little too much, more than he's worth so far. Do you guys see him getting signed? Do you see him lowering his price? What do you guys think?
Now that the Ravens don't have Earl Thomas, I could see them picking up Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, they need another star on defense. That's just going to take them further in the AFC. And if the Ravens pick him up, I think they're already a really good team, but just add another level to it on the defensive pass rush. And I know the Steelers don't have a lot of cap space, but he could go there and help the Steelers out a lot, in my opinion.
Sean, what do you think?
Those are kind of the same teams. It's weird. I don't think Jadeveon Clowney is opposed to sitting out the entire year. I think he is more than okay with waiting his turn and waiting to get paid. There's going to be some team that's going to need a really elite pass rusher, but last year he wasn't like an elite. He wasn't.
I don't know that he's ever been elite.
He's been disruptive. He's a disruptive rusher. I think last season, I might be wrong. I didn't look this up yet, but 4 sacks last year. So when you're looking at a guy and you're looking at he wanted at $20 million per year, you look at that and you're like, is it worth the money? And right now, teams aren't looking to pay that. I think he's lowered the price to about $15 million. So the Ravens could do something in that area. But to be honest, I don't think the Ravens want to just yet because they're waiting, God forbid, if somebody goes down. They got Calais Campbell, so that helps on that defensive front line. But right now, I think a lot of teams are just doing a wait and see who's going to get injured, who's not going to get injured. And then somebody will pounce on him probably, I'd say about midseason. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
But I don't think here's my thing is even this late to trade camp, even midseason, I don't think somebody's gonna look out to dish $15 million.
I don't think it'll be that much.
I think he lowers his price.
No, I think a contender is gonna wanna sign him probably week 6 to week 8. That's my thought process, and he'll take a good $7.5 to $10 million contract, kind of like what Logan Ryan just got from the New York Giants, just to play it and prove it. Cam Newton, let's be real, he took a $7.5 million deal in incentives. It's really a base of a $1.5 million contract. So when you look at a superstar like that getting that type of money, Jadeveon Clowney is going to have to take a big pay cut to be able to play football this year and then potentially next year get that big deal that he wants.
And that's why I think I do have Jadeveon Clowney going to the Patriots because if you're going to lower your price, guys typically lower their price to play in New England because that's where they create the most value for themselves in the market.
It wouldn't shock me, but I think it would have happened by now. We have over $30 million in cap, so I think we would have made a move already. There has to be something that maybe he's not sitting well with teams. He hasn't had any off-the-field issues, so teams obviously are calling the Texans, calling South Carolina, seeing his personality and how he works. So there might be problems there about not wanting to dish out that much money. But if the Patriots, I think the Patriots are going young. They drafted a lot of players on the defensive side. They're looking to see how they play. So I don't think the Patriots will make a move just yet. But anything can happen. They have the cap space.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of the issue with him is you turn on the film and the guy takes plays off. And that is not a trait you want in a pass rusher or edge in general. So I think, ultimately that's a huge red flag. You're not going to throw 20 million certainly at a guy who takes plays off like that. And, as a football guy, I think Bill Belichick is going to look at the situation and say, you know what, I would rather have a Chase Winovich who's going to go hard every play on a rookie deal than a Jadeveon Clowney who I'm supposed to pay and who already takes plays off, and now I'm going to throw him a bunch of money and all of a sudden that's going to end.
Yeah.
So
you want someone to earn it. You want someone to earn their spot on the team, and I think Belichick's that kind of coach where if you're not doing it, he's going to sit you out and you're going to be off the field. And I don't think, like you said, Jadeveon Clowney is, if he's going to do that in New England, he's just not going to make it that long.
That's well said. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we will get into our top 10 of the week. This week, we're breaking down our top 10 receivers as we preview the NFL season.
Speaking of guys who tore it up in summer camp, I mean, Vince Velasquez, it's just night and day what happened to him.
He's been probably the most frustrating player that I've had the pleasure to watch with the Phillies. And I call it a pleasure because he is fun to watch. And he's got the stuff, and you think that he's going to just put it all together, have a very good season. And he's made so many great plays. Like he threw out a guy from left field last season. Remember, he got hit in the right arm, couldn't throw, picks up left-handed, throws a bullet to first. You remember that stuff, but then you just look at the end of the season, and it was another. You see some signs that he's going to put it all together, but again, just not quite.
Welcome back. As we are 2 weeks away from the NFL season, we're previewing a different offensive skill position each week. This week, we're getting into the wide receivers. We all have our list of top 10 wide receivers here. These lists are based solely off talent, not necessarily production. So let's get right into it. I'll start with my number 10, Amari Cooper. I think he's one of the elite route runners in the league. I think Dallas has utilized him really well, and I'm excited to see what he does in a Mike McCarthy system this year. But ultimately, the reason he's not higher on this list is I just got to see more consistency. If he proves it again this year, he's got good potential to move up on this list. Connor, who do you have as your number 10?
My number 10 is Odell Beckham Jr. I know not the most productive the past couple seasons. The Browns have not been running a lot of 12 personnel, get a couple tight ends in there to help protect Baker Mayfield so he can throw the ball more. But I think that he's still a great talent. He's got a lot of room to grow. I know he's a young player. He's got some on/off the field issues. But he's still great. He's great catch radius. He's great off the line. And that's why Odell's my top 10.
Nice. Sean, who's your number 10?
I'm going to go Julian Edelman.
Okay, a slot
okay.
guy makes the list.
Listen, future Hall of Famer, okay? We're not disputing that, okay? That's non-disputable. He's just productive. And I think you'll see it this year without Tom Brady, how productive he actually is. He's been a productive wide receiver every single season he's been in. Last year, everybody doesn't talk about it. He had 1,000 yards receiving last year. Nobody talks about that. So I'm going to say number 10 right now, slot wide receiver. That's my pick right there.
That might be a homer pick right there.
Hey, it's still a homer.
I mean, he's been good.
Still
A slot guy in this talented wide receiver league just couldn't crack my list. My number 9 guy, T.Y. Hilton. He's battled some injuries, but when he's been on the field, he's been one of the best guys in the league. I think, I say no slot guy. T.Y. is a guy you can put in the slot. You can put him outside. He's a speedster, going to stretch the field over the top. And I think, if he stays healthy, if he's healthy consistently, he's a top 5 receiver. And you saw last year the Colts offense severely dropped off when he wasn't on the field. Connor, who do you have as your number 9?
My number 9 is Stephon Diggs, and he has just been a great player. He's going to Buffalo. Josh Allen, hopefully he can help some of the accuracy issues. He's got a great range of catches. He's 58% catch rate over the past 3 years. That's second in the NFL. So if the ball's in his area, he's probably going to catch it, and he's a really good route runner as well, and I think he's going to add a lot to Buffalo this year.
Nice. I think he's one of the quickest route runners I've seen in the NFL, maybe ever.
Yeah.
So that's a great number 9. Sean, who'd you go number 9?
I've got Keenan Allen number 9. I think, again, a productive guy throughout his entire career. Phillip Rivers would throw him the ball in any situation possible. Now he's got a little bit different situation with Tyrod Taylor. So that'll be an interesting start to the year for good old Keenan Allen. But hopefully, once who comes in, everything's going to make that difference. But right now with Tyrod Taylor at the starting quarterback position, it might be a couple rough weeks for him to start the year. But I got him number 9.
It might be. And, I think Tyrod Taylor maybe not as bad as people think. So we'll see. I think
accuracy's always been a little bit of an issue with Tyrod.
Yeah.
Like he's accurate on the short dump and dash throws, but those long balls, he's always had an issue with the accuracy.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what a new QB does for Keenan Allen for sure. But let me get into my number 8. My number 8 is Tyreek Hill. A lot of people have this guy as a top 5 receiver. Not me. He's a great speedster, and he really benefits from Patrick Mahomes' strong arm. I think with the wrong team, we don't even know the name Tyreek Hill. And I do respect the talent. He creates so many problems for defenses, but I just think ultimately it's such a deep wide receiver league. Tyreek Hill, number 8 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a homer there, John.
A homer.
That's a homer there. Yeah, it's a homer.
All right. Connor, who did you go for number 8?
My number 8 is Keenan Allen. He's just a great route runner, like Sean said. I think he's gotten the most separation per route, according to Pro Football Focus, over the past 3 years. And he's just great. He knows how to get separation. Like you said, Phillip Rivers throws him the ball whenever he wants to. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting year for sure.
It will. Sean, your number 8?
I got Chris Godwin. Again, with Jameis Winston on your team, you're bound to get touches. And he throws the ball to his 2 wide receivers almost constantly. Chris Godwin's a speedy guy. He can, again, it's kind of similar to Keenan Allen's game. He can make separation, especially when the deep throws go to him. It'll be interesting. Again, I think everybody's really intrigued to see how Tom Brady's going to be able to throw these receivers long, because my only problem with Chris Godwin in the short game is I don't know if he can create as much separation that he does if he's running just a long Hail Mary route. So we'll see, but right now Chris Godwin definitely is a top 10 wide receiver for me.
I like that. Definitely based on his production last year. I can't strongly disagree with that. My number 7 is going to match up very well with you guys' number 8. Keenan Allen, a lot of the reasons they said, and really I think his release is best in the league, tied with Davante Adams. And like I touched on earlier, very interesting to see his production with a new quarterback. Frankly, with the way Rivers played last year, I think we might see a boost in his production due to a quarterback change. So that'll certainly be something to keep an eye on. Connor, who'd you go for number 7?
My number 7, following Sean again, is Chris Godwin. I think it'll be interesting to see how Tom Brady does with him and Mike Evans on either side. And if Jameis Winston can put you up with high numbers and you can still get some production, I think Tom Brady is going to just increase his value even more. And Tampa's offense is really going to be electric this year.
Nice. Sean?
I have Amari Cooper. Again, when you talk about a guy that just comes out each week and performs well, that's Amari Cooper. He had a little bit of a snag last year when the games really mattered. He was battling an injury. He looked in immense pain the last, couple weeks of the season. So I'm hoping he has a bounce back year to prove to those doubters that were basically saying at the end of that year that he took plays off. That wasn't the case. He is a top 10 talent. And Dak has his number 1 receiver. And now with CeeDee Lamb coming in, that might take some of the pressure off of Amari Cooper. Because let's be real, the receiving corps for Dallas last year was really bad. It was not good. So they would just double Amari Cooper on hot routes and slants. So Amari Cooper is my number 7.
I like that. As a former Bama guy, I certainly appreciate Amari Cooper. My number 6, Mike Evans. One of probably the best wide receiver body type in the league. Huge wide receiver. A guy who can really do it all with great catch radius. The reason he didn't quite crack my top 5 is I'd like to see him improve as a route runner a little bit, which is always a challenge for those bigger receivers. Connor, who'd you go with this?
You're not gonna like this pick, but Davante Adams, number 6. I think he's the best route runner in the league. Don't get me wrong. I just think that with the guys I have ahead of him, I think in a head-to-head matchup, I think they take it. But he is a great asset to the Packers, and he's been the number 1 there for a couple of years now. And I think the Packers are really gonna have a great season. I think that Aaron Rodgers has been a leader. And he's just kind of filling out that role. I know he's a veteran guy, veteran offense, but it'll be interesting to see how him and Davante Adams, what their production is like this year.
Do you think a lot of people kind of knock Davante Adams back a little bit because he has Aaron Rodgers throwing to him?
I think so. I think I just don't know, you don't hear a lot about him. He's not a guy who puts up like he puts up great numbers, but it's not someone you hear about.
Yeah,
He's not like a superstar.
Yeah, I agree.
essentially.
He's kind of like a second-tier superstar receiver, and I don't know why, because like you mentioned, I also think he is the best route runner in the league.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree there.
Yeah. Sean, who did you go with in number 6?
Mike Evans.
Nice.
Yeah.
We finally can agree on something.
We agreed.
Might be the only time this whole season of just winning.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, we're not going to agree.
We have a
much.
milestone moment right here.
Yeah, I got Mike Evans, kind of for the same reasons John said. Again, it'll be really interesting to see how Brady's going to throw to Mike Evans because, again, like you said, not the best in the short game. He just goes and gets those deep balls and makes those spec catches over the defenders. So it'll be really interesting to see. I'm really intrigued by Tampa's offense to see, listen, does Tom Brady solve the arm? Or is he just going to do those dunk and dime throws and hopefully they can run past the corners? So, yeah, I've got Mike Evans.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that because I think his production might really become more consistent, skyrocket with Tom Brady throwing to him. Because, people don't think of him as a short game receiver, but with that big body, you can really box out the corners on those slants.
I'll say this. Maybe it's a hot take, but I said it here first on Just Winning. I don't think Mike Evans is a 1,000-yard receiver this year, in my personal opinion. I think most people are thinking Randy Moss. It's the best receiver he's had since Randy Moss. In my opinion, Brady has a bunch of weapons. You have Gronk, Chris Godwin. Scotty Miller has been performing really well with Tampa Bay in practice, so it looks like he's going to be the Julian Edelman type because that's what Brady always needs. Wes Welker, Julian, now Scotty Miller, whatever. But I do think Mike Evans' production will take a massive hit. It won't be Jameis Winston throwing to him every single time down the field. Tom Brady's going to get everybody involved, so Mike Evans will take a decline this year.
That's certainly a possibility. We'll see what happens. I'm expecting like 6 slants a game to Mike Evans, just boxing out those small corners. Yeah, maybe some bubble screens too. See what he can do with those.
Yeah, if Bruce Arians does bubble screens.
Yeah.
I don't know if Bruce Arians loves the bubble screen, but yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Tom Brady's running the Tampa Bay Bucks anymore.
We'll see. We will see. My number 5, cracking the top 5, Odell Beckham Jr. I think, the Browns were just a mess last year. I think Freddie Kitchens had a laughable campaign as the Browns coach, and I think Odell's production suffered from that. I'm expecting a huge bounce back year, and just talent-wise, I think he really is more like a top 3 guy, but some of those personality flaws Connor touched on kind of bumps him back a bit. And, I think I'm really hoping to see a big bounce back year from Odell because, after the catch, I think best in the league, good short game, good deep threat, big best hands in the league as we've seen him make some of those great circus catches. So, Odell Beckham, top 5.
Terrible pick.
That is a high rank for Odell.
Here's the thing.
I think 2 years ago, I agree, he's in the top 5. But now,
here's the thing. I think people don't like him, and they mix that up with the kind of talent he is as a wide receiver.
I can see that. It clouds your judgment a little bit.
It does cloud your judgment because, you turn on the film and it's like he does things that, guys outside of my top 5 simply don't do. You don't see plays like that anywhere on their highlight reel. So that's why Odell Beckham just cracks my top 5.
All right.
Or Connor, number 5.
Mike Evans. Like all the reasons you guys said, big body. He just gets down the field fast, and I think that this year will be interesting. Like all the points you've made, it'll see like Tom Brady. I think he's actually going to take a loss in production. I don't think he's going to put up as many numbers as he did last year, just because Tom Brady, he's not like a throw to one person unless it's Julian Edelman in the playoffs. But he's going to share the ball. Gronk, their connection is just unbreakable, and I think Gronk will be a great workhorse for them. So Mike Evans, number 5.
Interesting. Well, here's one question I ask you because Bruce Arians' offense, you typically think of slinging it down the field, but with Tom Brady at his age, can he do that?
No, I don't think he can get the deep ball going like he once did, and he's always been more conservative. I don't think he's been like a super flashy quarterback. He's very consistent, don't get me wrong, and that's why he's the greatest. But I don't think he's going to be throwing it down the field as much as Bruce Arians would have put in with a different quarterback.
So we'll see more of a modified Bruce
I think so,
Arians
yeah.
offense. I kind of expect some of the same.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady, I think he's got a better deep ball at this point than people give him credit for. So we'll see a little Bruce Arians style, a little Josh McDaniels style modified offense.
Well, they're the Tampa Bay Patriots. I don't know what else we need to talk about. Everything you're going to see this year is the Patriots just in the NFC. Let's move on. Let's go. I don't want to talk about it.
All right. Sean, number 5.
Devontae Adams.
I can't argue that.
Okay, so I put him in top 5. Don't be greedy now. Golly. Yes, I put Devontae Adams number 5. I don't care he's got Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. I look at these wide receivers and say, okay, if they go to another team, is the production still the same? And I think Devontae does. He plays through injuries. He doesn't take plays off. He's a gritty wide receiver. So, yeah, he doesn't get on the highlights every time. He's not like the guy that you're looking at as like, oh, number 1 wide receiver in the league. But I would take him as my number 1 receiver any day of the week. He's a productive guy. He can make all the catches. He can run any route. So, yeah, I've got him a top 5 receiver.
Interesting. I actually have him next at my number 4 receiver.
Way to give it away.
I was gonna get into it. But yeah, my Packers bias might have played a slight role in him being all the way up at 4, but I don't think it did because he's such a talented route runner. That I think he's just outside the guys that are the talented route runner, plus will go up and moss you. He's not the guy who you necessarily expect to go up and moss people consistently, but, I think he is, the best, if not certainly a top 3 route runner in today's NFL. And I think that's huge because, we're talking about creating separation, getting open. That's really everything, though, wide receiver.
Well, let's look at the Packers wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's reminiscent of Dallas's wide receivers, right? You have
I would say he's
clear
even
cut.
worse, to be honest.
Oh,
man. As a Packers fan, it's like you've got Devontae Adams and a bunch of like undrafted guys. That's what we're working.
But I'm
with.
saying Devontae still puts up numbers with. Think about it. All they're doing is doubling Devontae for the most part. They're just sending a safety over the top to make sure Devontae doesn't go off, and he still puts up about 100 receiving yards per game. So it does help that you guys have Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, that 2-headed horse at running back, so they don't know when to cover the running backs and when to cover him. But if you can put up that type of numbers with that receiving core, you're a number 1 wide receiver.
That because his route running is just that good, where it's like on a speed out, on a slant, on a sluggo, nobody's covering him. I mean,
yeah.
I look at some of those routes and I don't see any corner who could possibly.
Well, Stephon Gilmore, but let's keep going.
We haven't got to see that. We haven't got to see that for a while. Connor, who's your number 4 receiver?
My number 4 is Tyreek Hill. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. Battled through injuries last season, and even in the Super Bowl, he tore up that 49ers defense, who had been so great all year against the pass. And he's just one of the fastest guys. Patrick Mahomes and him, they're just a great duo. I mean,
great duo. I would rate them as a top duo. I wouldn't necessarily rank Tyreek as a top 5 receiver.
I understand that. Yeah, that makes sense.
As you're saying.
No, yeah, I just think he's like not a Julian Edelman type, but he can get open when he needs to. He's in the slant, like he can go to the slot, he can go outside as well, and that's why I put him in my top 5.
Nice.
Tyreek Hill, number 4. Same.
Yeah.
I don't agree with John's take on him not being a top 5 receiver. Listen, do I think he's a one-track wide receiver? Yes. All he can do is run and catch a ball that's long. Or do a quick slant and just run past the guy. But I can't fault the guy for it. Like, he's a really, really fast guy that can run past pretty much every single person in the NFL. So the Chiefs, my problem with the Chiefs is that's all they do now, is they just get a bunch of fast guys and have Patrick Mahomes throw his little behind the back, long 60-yard pass. But no, he's very productive. If he stays healthy, he's a 1,000-yard receiver every year for the sheer fact that if he catches 2 balls over 50 yards each game, that's all he needs to do. They have everybody else. So, yeah, he's a top 5 wide receiver, even though he doesn't make all of the catches or all of the routes.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you just said. I just think I agree with most of what you just said.
This is why it's his show.
I think to crack my top 5, you've got to have a more complete skill set than what he has. But you know what? I respect him. He cracked the top 10, so
barely cracked the top
10. Number 8 is all right. Let's move on. My number 3, DeAndre Hopkins. I think, once we get into the top 3, we're talking about the absolute complete skill set guys that it's hard to find a hole in their game. So, it's like splitting hairs with the top 3 guys. I think all of our top 3 guys pretty much look the same, maybe not in the same order. I'm super excited to see what DeAndre Hopkins is going to do this year with the Cardinals, and that air raid type system with one of the best young quarterbacks thrown to him in Kyler Murray.
Yeah. My number 3 as well, DeAndre Hopkins. I think him and Larry Fitzgerald are going to be a good duo. I know Larry Fitz is getting a little up there in age, 17th season and all, but he's still been productive. He catches everything. And I think DeAndre and him are just going to be a really good dual threat for Kyler Murray. And I'm excited to see what the Cardinals will do. I think the NFC West is probably the best division in football right now. Maybe not the Rams, but I think that DeAndre Hopkins is probably the best at catching the ball in the whole NFL. So
Nice.
Well, it's interesting that the Rams aren't good anymore. They were the top of the NFL just 2 years ago.
That division is going to be tough, man.
Well,
There's going to be the fourth team in that division is going to be a very good football team.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 100%. My number 3 is DeAndre Hopkins. I think that, again, our top 3 is going to be very similar, but again, for those reasons, like they said, I don't think Larry Fitzgerald's going to have a great year. I think Christian Kirk is probably going to take that number 2 spot right now. He looks like a really up-and-coming wide receiver. But Kyler Murray, he's still young. He's going to get his bright eyes and be like, I have DeAndre Hopkins on my team. Let's throw a couple deep balls every game. So, yeah, DeAndre Hopkins is going to have a really productive year. I have him number 3.
Nice. I'm glad. First one we've all been in agreement.
There it is.
The
That was good.
trifecta. All right, my number 2 guy, Michael Thomas.
We're on the same page.
Listen.
We've had a couple.
This guy, I really can't even say anything negative about his game. I really can't. Between him and my number 1 guy, who I won't reveal just yet, I really think it's more about just the respect I have for that guy. So, Michael Thomas, absolute great top 3 route runner, long guy who can go up and moss you. And I think my favorite thing about Michael Thomas is he got paid big money and had one of his most productive seasons. So I always respect that about a player. Connor, who is your number 2 guy?
Julio Jones is my number 2. I think he is the second best wide receiver in the whole league. I think that's where he's been in the top 3 the past 10 years or however long he's been in the league. He's just great. He can go up and do anything. There's, like you said, no holes in his game. I just think that, for me, there's one guy better than him in the league, and Julio Jones, he's just been super productive in that Falcons offense, and he'll keep being productive. He'll keep catching balls, keep making those great catches like he always does.
Yeah, I have Julio Jones number 2. It's the product of who's throwing you the ball, and I think they're very close. I don't think you might see this season Julio goes off and Michael Thomas is just right behind him. But as of right now, Julio's number 2 for me. That offense is so productive for him that Matt Ryan gets him 15 looks a game. But in my opinion, he's not the best. There's somebody better than him.
Okay. I mean, I won't argue with that too much just because they're both just absolute monsters in their own right.
Pennies.
Yeah, pennies on the dollar. Pennies on the dollar. My number 1 guy is their number 2 guy, Julio Jones. Reason he cracked my number 1?
Not a homer.
He's Alabama.
I did grow up an Alabama fan. Might have played a very small factor.
I don't care that it's his show. He's from Alabama. Okay, go.
Here's the thing. Is that it was last week against Philadelphia. They're down. I believe it was 1 score. They needed a touchdown to take the lead. He takes a bubble screen like 60 yards for the game-winning touchdown. I was like, okay, Julio still has it. Great after the catch guy, great route runner, and just physically, from a physicality standpoint, the best, even better than. That's the one area I'll say he's better than Michael Thomas is just like the physicality of that wide receiver. Man, I've never seen anything like it. I doubt we ever will again.
I can't argue with that. He's obviously 1 or 2, and my number 1 is Michael Thomas. 149 receptions last season. He's just a workhorse. He can get open when he needs to. He can make plays. Drew Brees, that offense is electric, first off, and they have so many weapons. And the fact that he still put up numbers last year with the amount of weapons that they have around him is just mind-blowing. The Saints should be in the Super Bowl every year, in my opinion, with that defense and that offense, but we'll see what happens. Mike Thomas is easily my number 1.
Yeah, but what do you think it is? Why do they choke in the playoffs year after year?
A bad call here or there, maybe. Yeah. Maybe the NFL's against them, but
hard to quantify.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Sean, you're number 1. A lot of suspense.
Yeah, Michael Thomas. If you look last year, I wanted to look up his drops because I think that was a very important, conversation starter. he had his streak broken in 2019 of 198 straight catches without dropping a pass, including the postseason. So he dropped a pass in a game after 198 straight completions without a drop. That is what puts him number 1 and not number 2 for me. Julio, and again, it's nothing against Julio. Like, he was on my fantasy team. Love him to death. Straight 2 years I've had Julio, so I love him to death. But Michael Thomas catches everything that comes to him. If it's a drop, he's getting triple teamed. So, in my opinion, the number 1 receiver for me.
Nice. And you know what? Like I said, won't argue that too much. Both great receivers. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we will get into our of the weeks.
Well, guys, it's officially been announced. Almost Game Day is coming to HTFN on Fridays on the HTFN YouTube page. I'm super excited to share my knowledge and my thoughts on these issues in the sports world, good and bad. And I'm excited to have interviews with such high-profile guests that I'll be bringing on the show to talk to me about these issues. And I guess I will announce it here first on this Friday who will be my debut guest. Charles Davis from CBS Sports will join me to discuss a multitude of topics. So get ready for that, dropping on Friday. I'm super excited to be working with so many amazing people to get this show up, and I hope you'll tune in. Almost Game Day with Sean Green, airing on Fridays, only on HTFN.
We are back, and we are going to get into our of the weeks. We are each going to give our beast, bust, and best of the week. Connor, who is your beast of the week?
My beast of the week is from the NHL, Thomas Greiss, goalkeeper, New York Islanders. He's just having a monster playoffs so far, 1.68 goals per game. That's the lowest in the league. The Islanders, a 6 seed, are up 3-1 on Philly right now, 3-1. I think they're a team of destiny, some might say, and he's just having a great season. They're 10-3 so far, and the Islanders are just playing really good hockey right now. I think that they're going to move past Philly. They're going to play Tampa in the conference finals. And from there, who knows what will happen? Maybe it's the Islanders' year.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Sean, who is your
My
beast
thing
of
is,
the week?
who thought the Islanders would be better than the Rangers ever?
Never.
I'm not even that big of a hockey guy, but like the Rangers.
Hey, you know what? It's Connor's beast.
I know that. No, I'm this one, but what I'm saying is like, who would think that the Rangers are not the?
They
number
play in
one
a
team?
barn. They play in a barn. So who could say?
I guess. Jeez. My beast of the week is Chris Paul. I think we talked about it earlier. He took over. He's willed the Thunder back in this series, and I think he will ultimately end up beating the Rockets and leading the Thunder to the semis.
Nice. His 28 points last night certainly warrants that. My beast of the week is Clay Johnson, the 7th round pick, inside linebacker on the LA Rams. Dude embodies everything it means to be a beast. You see him out there at Hard Knocks, and he's just has all the energy in the world as a fringe roster guy to be out there and be that vocal on the field. You just have to respect it. The dude just loves the game of football. He has that uncontainable enthusiasm that we saw from guys like Brett Favre, who's actually a mentor of his. I certainly hope this guy makes the roster. If he doesn't make the roster, I sure hope my team, the Green Bay Packers, signs him.
Hard Knocks has been great so far. It's all via Zoom, so that's awesome.
It's been a different type of Hard
And
Knocks.
Sean McVay in the pool, which is
Dude, is it just me, or did he get more jacked for Hard Knocks?
He did.
I didn't think he's always
Here's
been
the
this
thing.
jacked.
I think he saw the first episode and then he hit the weight room a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say
so?
that. Like, yes.
Was that in the first episode that he was in the pool?
Yes,
That's what I
first
thought.
episode he was in the pool,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden he's like, I will never do that again. But then all of a sudden, every shirt he wears is like
super tight.
Yeah, I thought he looked jacked in the pool scene too. I was like, I thought here's my take on what
he had a
happened.
quarantine bot a little bit. Come on.
It looks like John going out.
I know, yeah. He is your uncle. I'm telling. He is. Sean McVay.
I will take that as a compliment. But no, I think he heard he was going to be on Hard Knocks. Maybe did a couple cycles or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough of that. Connor, who is your bust of the week?
This is an easy one for me. It's Giannis. 18 points in Game 1 of against the Heat, and that's just not going to cut it for me. He is my bust. The Bucks have been my bust of the postseason so far, and he's just not doing it. He's not playing at an MVP level like we said.
Yeah. Sean, who is your bust of the week?
The Indiana Pacers. Absolutely terrible. I was actually thinking it was going to be a good series. I think everybody was expecting that the Heat Pacers was going to be a good series. I should have known better since in the bubble regular season, the Heat beat them both times, but I had high hopes. TJ Warren absolutely was killing everybody. But the Indiana Pacers really, I'm shocked that they got killed that bad by the Heat. I think they really need to look at themselves in the mirror. They've already fired Nate McMillan, which, to be honest, I don't think was the problem. I think he was just, I don't even know the right word, but he got fired, and it wasn't even his fault. I think they really need to look at the management and really look at that from up to down. But I think Oladipo will probably get traded, which sucks because I think the Pacers are much better with him. Obviously, Sabonis not being in hurt them in the long run, but he wasn't the tell-all for that team. They just didn't play as hard as they needed to, and they're my bust of the week.
Nice. That is a bust. They certainly disappointed many. My bust of the week is the Toronto Raptors. Frankly, this whole season, going into the playoffs, going into the bubble, I was like, the Raptors are the best team in the NBA. They're going to win the championship, okay? And I looked like an absolute fool on Sunday. Okay? They got absolutely murked by the Boston Celtics, and I felt, frankly, deceived by the Toronto Raptors. And I thought they were the deepest team in the league, but maybe they lack that. Maybe they lack the firepower. Who knows? Who is your best of the week?
My best of the week is the Los Angeles Sparks from the WNBA. They're on a 9-game win streak right now. Candace Parker is leading the league in rebounds per game. They started 3-3. They're 12-3 right now, second in the Western Conference, right behind Seattle. They're having a great season so far, and hopefully they can keep up this production. So they're my best of the week.
Nice. That's a great best. Sean, who is your best of the week?
I wish my best bust in all this was like as diverse as Connor's. I wish I could have pulled a WNBA stat, but I picked the Miami Heat. I guess it's not like the fun pick, but like they're just playing out of their minds right now. I do ultimately think, after seeing Game 1, again, I might be a little ahead of myself here. I did pick the Bucks in 6, but after last night, it's looking pretty good for the Heat. I think the Heat just look like the much better team right now, and I don't want the Heat to make it any further, but it looks like they've got a pretty good shot at it after last night. That's
a good one, and I don't want to overreact to Game 1, but I'm also going to overreact to Game 1. My best of the week is the Boston Celtics. If the Raptors were my best, then by default, the Celtics have to now be my best. I think those guys play so well together. I think Kemba Walker is sort of like the ultimate coach's point guard. He's always going to produce, but he's not going to go rogue. He's going to keep it in the system. He's going to run the offense and make all the guys around him better. So my best of the week is the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's a good pick.
Nice. All right, before we sign off, let's give our predictions for tonight. Boston versus Toronto, Game 2. Connor, who do you got?
I'm going to take the Celtics. They have the hot hand right now. I think in Game 1, they were shooting a ridiculous from three-point. I think it was like 50%, and the Raptors were shooting 30% from the field. The Raptors just aren't hitting shots. If they can do that, it might be a series, but I think the Celtics are going to take this in 5 or 6 probably.
Nice. Sean?
Though I want the Celtics to win. I'm a Boston fan by default. I do think the Raptors will take this game too. The Raptors are notoriously good to come off of Game 1 losses. I think they've only had 2 losses off of a Game 1 loss, so they're looking to come back. I do think they win this game tonight, but I do agree. I do not think they win the series. I think Boston ultimately takes it. I think Boston has a lot more talent on the team, but yeah, I'm going to take Toronto tonight to win.
Yeah, so my come down from that Sunday Raptors loss was so heavy. I'm right in the Celtics all the way to the top. We're going Celtics tonight. We're going Celtics in 4. Sweep.
I hope that'd be great. I would love to see a Celtics Heat series. That'd be awesome.
All right, Connor, Jazz Nuggets. Who you got? Game 7, first Game 7 of the playoffs. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, this is a tough one because I feel like they're the same exact team. Young stars. They got good shooters, good power forwards that just hit shots from like the mid range. And I think on paper the Nuggets are the better team, but I'm gonna take the Jazz. I think Donovan Mitchell is gonna show out tonight. Him and Jamal Murray have been going back and forth, 50-point games, 40-point games. I just think Donovan Mitchell, he wants it. He seems like he's hungry, and that's why I'm gonna take Utah here.
Nice. Sean?
We talked about on hitting the field yesterday. I think the Jazz will take Game 7. They both have played outstanding basketball. And as I said, I think whatever team comes out of this series will go to the Western Conference Finals, the way that they're playing. I think the Jazz and the Nuggets are playing better than the Clippers at this point. The Jazz and the Nuggets, they're both playing outstanding. They both look like they want it more than most of these other Western Conference teams. You would think a team like the Rockets would come in here and be outstanding and show the grit and passion. But the Jazz-Nuggets series has been the best series we had so far because they showed that they actually won it. So it is a toss-up. I do think the Jazz ultimately take it tonight after Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, what they were doing after the game, punching chairs, throwing chairs, yelling at each other. I think they're hungry, and I think they do ultimately win tonight.
Nice. I think that Donovan Mitchell is the best player in this series. I think he's going to have to be the best player on the floor tonight if they're going to win. And sorry, Okelo, but I think he will be the best player tonight. I think the Jazz will take Game 7. Can't say I see them beating the Clippers, but that's a conversation for another day. We're out of time today, guys. Thank you two for joining me, and thank you all for listening. Have a great week.